Hello everyone, this is Shin Sang-hyup on In Focus. On February 4th, President Myung-bak embarked on a four-nation tour for state visit to Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. His visit to the oil-rich nations are drawing attention amid the global community's growing sanctions on Iran. On today's In Focus, we will take a closer look at President Lee's efforts to secure stable sources of energy with two expert guests. Joining me for today's discussion are Professor Joong-kwan from Dongguk University. Welcome to our program.
Hello, thank you.
And then Professor Florig from Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Well, thanks for being with us today.
Glad to do it.
Well, let's start today's discussion. I want to start today's discussion with this question, Professor Florig. Well, as I briefly mentioned, that President Lee Myung-bak paid his official visit, state visit to 4 Middle East countries. I think that over there, well, some political situations is quite will have very high tension right now. So I think the situations over there is related to his official visit to these four the Middle East countries. Could you explain about the background of his visit and what kind of purposes he has from his this state visit to these four Middle East countries?
That's right. President Lee's visit has been dominated by the current crisis in the Middle East. At the heart of that crisis is the Iranian nuclear program. Iran has been rapidly developing its nuclear capability. Now, Iran claims that is for peaceful purposes, like generating electricity or doing medical research or things like that. But the United States and its Western allies believe that Iran is seeking nuclear weapons. The issue is complicated, but the way that Iran is going about its program indicates that it probably has nuclear weapons as its goal. And virtually every country that has eventually gotten nuclear weapons first claimed that their research was only peaceful. So Pakistan, India, China, even Britain and France have all developed nuclear weapons, but in the beginning they all said they were just doing peaceful research. So there's reason to be skeptical about Iran's claims that it's only for peaceful purposes. Now, the United States, Britain, France, Germany, China, and Russia have all joined together to negotiate with Iran for several years now to try to get it to slow down its program. But Iran has absolutely refused to be reined in. The UN voted some mild sanctions against Iran to try to pressure it. But the United States has much more severe sanctions. It takes zero imports of Iranian oil, and recently it's been stepping up its sanctions against Iranian banks and financial institutions. And just recently, the EU has kind of joined in with the American campaign. Soon they will embargo all imports of oil from Iran and have tougher economic sanctions. Now, as part of this campaign, the United States has been putting pressure on Korea to cut back on its imports from Iran. Korea gets roughly 10% of its oil from Iran.
10%?
Yes. Now, Korea has been slow to respond to this because that 10% of oil is very important to Korea's economy, but it's getting intensified pressure from the United States. So this trip, 3 out of the 4 nations are major oil exporting nations, and I think the most important part of this trip is to try to find alternative sources to make up for the Iranian oil that's been lost. Now, to further complicate the situation, both the United States and Iran have been conducting naval maneuvers in the Persian Gulf. The Persian Gulf is crucial to international oil trade. It's not only Iran that exports its oil through the Persian Gulf, but roughly half of all the oil in the world that is exported comes through the Persian Gulf. Iran, because of the sanctions and because of U.S. military action there, has threatened to cut off the Persian Gulf and stop all oil exports from the Persian Gulf. That would affect not only the Iranian oil, but Saudi oil and the oil from many other Arab states also passes through the Persian Gulf. Probably 80 or 90% of all oil that Korea imports comes through the Persian Gulf. Now, most experts believe that this is an empty threat by Iran, that they have no real interest in cutting off the Persian Gulf because it would cut off their own oil exports. But this is a situation we have to keep a close eye on, and this is certainly one of the other considerations why President Lee is going to these oil-rich nations.
Well, the Professor Florig gave us a big picture and background of the President Lee's state visit to 4 Middle East countries.
Yes.
By the way, among the 4 nations, the President Lee chose the Turkey as his first destination. Are there any special reasons?
Yes, actually, basically the proposed visit for countries are a little different from each other. In Turkey, President Lee seeks the nuclear plant construction project cooperation with Turkey and also discuss on FTA between 2 countries. Now it's very high time to make a FTA between Korea and Turkey, because we already now go into the FTA with EU. So Turkey eagerly want to make some contract with Korea.
I see. Then could you explain us the economic impact, economic gains which South Korean economy can gain from this FTA?
Yes, FTA, basically, theoretically, we can say that FTA is eliminate some trade barrier and eliminate non-trade barriers. So it has some green light on the trading and investment both 2 countries, and especially for Korea, we have some positive effect. So on the auto companies and industries, and some electronic companies. But in some sense, some textile and some agriculture part is weak for the Korean producers.
As far as I know, the Turkish average tariff rate is about 9.8%, which is quite high in comparing with other countries. Particularly, as you mentioned briefly, the Korean automakers have enjoyed the special, the benefit. I mean, they have exported about 50,000 units of vehicles last year.
Yes.
So, owing to the FTA, certainly. They could have more. The favorable markets over there. So the auto market can be one of the industry which gain the huge benefits from Korea-Turkey FTA.
Yes.
And then what else? I mean, besides the
besides, we can get Turkey as some gateway to the European market and also Middle East. We have a technology, and Turkey has some network with Middle East. Historically, they have close relationship with Middle Eastern countries, and it's a gateway to the European market. So, and in some sense, we can say there is some big deal between Turkey and Korea. We give the FTA contract through to level with Europe for Turkey, and we can get some chance to get some contract for building of the atomic as a power plant.
Professor Florig, actually the relationship between Korea and the Middle East countries and Islamic community has been developed for the last several decades, but in comparing with the relationship with other countries in the other regions, how do you think? I mean, the relationship between Korea and the Middle East countries is quite strong as much as that of the other countries?
The economic relationship is strong. I don't think that the political and cultural relationship is as strong. Korea is a member of the OECD and a member of an alliance with the United States. So, and Korea is a democracy, and it looks to the West as a model for its evolution and its development. There's not the same kind of cultural interchange between Korea and the Middle East, although there has been some Korean pop culture that has leaked into the Middle East. But basically, the cultural and political relationships are not so tight. But the economic relationship is very important because Korea imports almost all its oil from the Middle East, and oil is absolutely essential to a modern economy.
Mm. Well, the second destination which the President Lee visited was Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And as Professor Florig pointed out, well, these, 3 out of 4 nations which President Lee visited this time are oil-producing countries. Particularly Saudi Arabia is one of the largest oil-producing country in the world, and actually 1/3 of the oil. We import the total needed oil,
yes,
but 1/3 of the oil from Saudi Arabia. So certainly there should be some significance we can put on his visit to Saudi Arabia. What kind of meaning you can think about from his visit to Saudi Arabia?
Yes. So Lee held summit talk with Saudi Arabia King Abdullah on the 8th of February, and he discussed the preparation to cut back the crude oil we import from Iran, according to UN resolution and American guideline. As Korea moved to U.S.-led campaign to dry up Iran's oil export revenues, and as you said, we are cut out Iran from the international financial system, and now we are making some sanctions on the Central Bank of Iran and other commercial bank which relate with the oil industry and the oil refinery system, and also we are related with this nuclear weapon sanction program. So the relation with these 3 oil-rich countries, Saudi Arabia and Qatar, US, are becoming is most important countries for Korea. So after that, we can get additional oil from that countries. As you said, that 10% of our total oil consumption from Iran in a year. So we need to get additional oil from these 3 countries.
I see. And Professor Florig, actually you mentioned very briefly about the background of the President Lee's visit to these 4 Middle East countries. Certainly I want to know the details about the Korean response. We are right now in the middle of some crisis right now because of the tensions in the Middle East countries. We have to diversify our source of the energies, particularly petroleum, right? So how about the political implications? Because of economic reasons, if we change our policies, certainly there could be some political implications on the relationship between the Middle East countries and Korea. Don't you think so?
Yes, well, Professor Kim is absolutely correct that Korea is attempting to diversify its sources of oil, and the Strip is very important to that. But you're also right that there are important political implications here. Perhaps Korea is getting too dependent on Saudi Arabia, just as the United States has historically become too dependent on Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy. Despite the Arab Spring, there's no real parliament, there's no real elections. Women are particularly repressed in Saudi Arabia. They're much worse off than in Iran or other countries that get a lot more attention in the Western and Korean press. Women aren't even allowed to drive automobiles in Saudi Arabia. So the Saudi Arabian government so far has been immune to the Arab Spring uprisings, basically because with their oil revenue, they've been able to kind of buy political support. But it's certainly possible in the near future that the Arab Spring will sweep into Saudi Arabia, and that regime is very fragile and could fall very rapidly, like the regime in Egypt. So I think that this is a consideration that we should keep in mind. I'm not predicting that this is going to happen. I think it's actually not likely to happen. But if it does happen, it would be a very significant issue. So I think Korea, while it needs to turn to Saudi Arabia at this time, it also in the long term needs to understand that strategic dependence on Saudi Arabia is risky.
Yes. Well, let's move to the next country. I mean, the Qatar. Qatar was the third destination of President Lee. As far as I know, we import the largest amount of the LNG, liquefied natural gas. Am I correct? And then could you explain the current economic relationship between Korea and Qatar?
Yes, Qatar, as you said, is a third leg of trip of President Lee Myung-bak, which is the biggest exporter of liquefied natural gas for Korea. And Qatar has a world's largest production and the proven renewable oil and natural gas. And Qatar has the world's highest GDP and it's per capita, while economy grows 19.40%, and the fast growing country in the world. And actually, their population includes foreigners of 80%. So actual GDP per capita is almost 30 times bigger than Korea. So now we are 18,000 and 20,000 around, but they are actually 600,000 or 500,000 around. And the main drive for this rapid growth attribute to ongoing increase of production of oil and high oil prices and of liquefied natural gas, and the petrochemicals and the related petrochemical products. As I told you, Qatar is the biggest country to supply LNG to Korea, and is almost equivalent to same level of Iran to crude oil in Korea.
So during his state visit,
Yes.
what kind of achievement did he make?
So he already meeting with the Sheikh Hamid, Qatar King, Khalifa Thani, and discussed bilateral cooperation and various areas such as energy and construction and trade and healthcare. And he made a MOU also. Abdul Rahman, Minister of City Planning, discussed of $70 billion of construction or infrastructure of the World Cup 2022 and related new city buildings.
70, right? $70 billion. It's huge money, isn't it? Yes.
Billion.
Well,
Let me just add something about the natural gas. Qatar is the largest source and has the greatest reserves of natural gas. And natural gas is seen by some as a kind of green fuel. Natural gas burns cleaner than oil and certainly cleaner than coal. So it's certainly possible that natural gas will become increasingly important as an energy source in the future.
Yes. Well, the last nation the President Lee visited was the United Arab Emirates.
Yeah.
And certainly there he tried to gain something, right, from his visit. Could you explain what kind of the achievement he made?
Actually, United Arab Emirates is composed of 7 Emirates. Emirate means principalities, small countries.
Small kingdom.
Yes, small kingdom, yes. He visited United Arab Emirates to hold talk of Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan over bilateral issues, including Seoul's participation in the development of nuclear reactors in the country, in the UAE. And actually, we have experience in December 2009, Korea Electric Power Corporation and Emirates Nuclear Energy Corporation signed for $20 billion deal to build for nuclear reactor by 2020. And actually, it's as I told, the capital of UAE is Abu Dhabi, and it's the largest emirate in this among 7 kingdoms. And the first one, Abu Dhabi, second, Dubai. It's two kingdom is very prominent and capitalized the regions in the Gulf area. So it's good place to progress Middle East. This country is very important for Korea. It's very symbolical. It's good. It's a great country.
Mm-hmm. Well, time is very limited, so I'd like to ask the final question to both of you. Well, Professor Florig, actually, how do you evaluate the achievement which President Lee made from his official visit, state visit to these 4 Middle East countries? How it will affect the future relationship between Korea and these 4 nations? And then, if possible, could you suggest some ideas what kind of the measures or efforts South Korean government should make in order to strengthen and the relationship with these 4 Middle East countries?
Well, certainly state visits and diplomacy are very important in smoothing relations. But relations between states are based mainly on national interest. And the Korean national interest is deeply engaged in the Middle East. They have the oil and natural gas,
right,
and Korea needs it. And that's really the basis of the relationship. Diplomacy can make that relationship go more smoothly. It can help Korea to sell more products back to the Middle East to balance out its trade a little bit. But the basis of the relationship is oil diplomacy. Now, as far as suggestions about the future, I have only one very minor point, is I think that the Korean government and the Korean foreign ministry might do more to train Arab speakers and Arab specialists, because this is going to be an important region of the world for a long time to come. And while Korea turns out many English speakers and many speakers of European languages, not so many people are trained in Arabic. I think that's very important.
Well, how about it?
Yes, given the change of global environment in 21st centuries, Middle Eastern countries and Korea in the context of Northeast Asian region should aim for the development and transformation for the cooperation. Like, as also we need expand from economy to the other various other fields, including culture and the society in general. As he mentioned in the language also.
I see. Well, thank you very much, Professor Kim Joong-kwan and Professor Dennis Florig, for sharing your insights on today's topic. Well, today we have discussed the background and achievement which President Myung-bak made from his state visit to 4 Middle East countries. Well, this is all for today, and then I am Shin Sang-hyup for In Focus, and see you next time.